I'm Craig Colbian with Dave Burgher. Welcome to the Business Heroes.
Thanks for having me here today, Craig.
Dave Burgher realized he was in the wrong business. It's not that he was doing badly. Dave was a top 5 salesman in his organization, selling electronic components and relays. He just had no idea why. Then Dave attended one presentation that explained his success. That's when Dave Burgher realized he needed to quit and do something else. Can you imagine being so successful at something that you have to quit? That is the origin story of Dave Burgher. Today, he's going to tell us about that. He's going to talk a lot about leadership. You can learn a lot about leadership. He's going to talk about networking, the way to be the best networker you can be. But for Dave Burgher, from Dave Burgher Leadership, it all starts with that moment when he was sitting in a presentation and realized, I am so good, I have to quit. Dave Burgher, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate you spending your time with us today. Before we get into that story, just tell us a little bit about what business you're in now.
Well, my business is leadership, and it's as simple as that. Leadership is influence. You can be a good influence, you can be a bad influence, and that moves people. So it moves people into, hopefully, if you're a good leader, a good direction. And really, that's the bottom line. I could explain 45 minutes, but the bottom line, it's leadership.
Yeah, and I can tell you from personal experience, you have that in abundance. But let's go back a little bit. Successful salesman. It was referenced a little bit in the piece at the top. What were you selling at the time?
So components, relays, products like meters, test equipment, that sort of stuff. Selling solutions to engineers who are designing. So I would help the engineers in terms of with their design to get our components on the board. So when it goes to the purchasing department call us and place an order with us as a result of that.
And how did you know you were good at this?
Well, I didn't know I was good at it, but they paid me a lot of money year after year. And quite frankly, I felt guilty. I felt guilty that I'm making this money and I'm not sure why my sales is always above my peers.
And how did you know your sales were above your peers?
Well, because we're a sales department, they compare us constantly. We have running total every single month, sometimes daily total. So we're looking at the numbers daily and we're seeing what the sales results are.
And when did you realize the reason for that?
That was a while back. To know what I really did is when I was exposed to leadership. And I found out through that exposure is that the relationships that I was able to cultivate, and it wasn't that I went for the relationship, it was that was something natural for me. Because I figure if this guy is going to buy something from me, I kind of want some kind of relationship with him. I don't want to take his money or his purchase order, which is the way we did money back then, and without even have some kind of relationship with the person. So that did it for me. So that's all I did. Sometimes I would show up at a customer's place at 6 o'clock on a Friday afternoon because that's the only time he has. Because after his busy day, then he tapers down and he figures, geez, I need to get some stuff done for Monday. And there's a guy here that will be able to help me with the bulk of what I need to do for Monday. So I take it.
So you would show up, everyone else is taken off on Friday night. You are going to a customer at his probably most stressful point in the week because he wants to get out of there too. And you are there to present solutions.
Yes. A little story. I had this guy that was running the company at the time. I went on an appointment with him on Friday afternoon to one of these major security companies. And he said to me, I know what you're going to do after this. I was in sales. salespeople take Fridays off, so I know you're gone, you're done for the day. I'm kind of thinking, oh, that's what we're supposed to do. But I never did know that's what salespeople did. Because certainly sometimes I want to go to Ottawa or some other city on the weekend early, but I cannot really go on Friday because that's when I get my biggest orders. So he thought we were taking off, but obviously that was the rest of the fall. But I'm waiting behind because I'm going to get $250,000 today.
That's a pretty good incentive to spend a couple extra hours on Friday night.
Absolutely.
That makes that Friday night drink tastes a lot better when you've, moved $250,000 worth of stuff.
What was a big meal?
Yeah, good one. What was the presentation, the meeting that provided you this moment of illumination?
So the reason why I understood is because a friend of mine, a business friend, invited me to a presentation, a leadership presentation. And they spoke in that leadership about relationships and things that you need to do to lead communities, that sort of stuff. And before that, I remember way back in the corporate world, we had done some studies on a book we call 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There was no connection there at the time, but I remember that book did an awful lot for me at the time when I studied that book. Incidentally, I'm reading over that book right now, and we have a study group that's going through that book as well. So some of that stuff is coming back to me now. So I had some relationship with personal development back then, but I didn't really connect everything together. But now I'm in a personal development group. I love what they were saying because now I'm not working and I'm starting a company and I need this information to help me to succeed. So when they spoke about it, I did that. That's exactly what I did. And everything just kind of connected for me. And from there on, I decided this is the journey that I want to walk because not only can I help myself, my family, but I can help a lot of people on this journey.
So you're in the presentation, you're good at sales, you don't really know why. The leadership information comes up and you go, that's it. That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
And it sounds like you're saying that's not only what I am doing, but that's what I should be doing.
Exactly. Well, it gives me a way, it shines a light to say, this is where you were getting those success all these years. Because it's fine that you get lucky one year and you did well, but if you're doing that 5 years in a row, there is a reason why that happened 5 years in a row.
And so what did you do after that? When you've had that moment of illumination, what did you do?
So I did a lot of things after that. One of the things that I started trading, that wasn't so successful. So I went back and started opening some smaller companies and represent some vendors from Europe, United States, all over the world. So those did well. And then I said, you know what? I need to take on this personal development stuff full time. So I did. I took it on in 2012, and I've been doing it from 2012 until now.
And when you say take it on, what does that mean?
It just means this is my life. So I live it as opposed to work it. So I live it at night, day, whenever I'm alive. I'm doing personal development all the time through my family, through all the people I communicate with.
And how did you turn it into your business? What did you do?
So the friend had an organization, a bigger organization, that there was a whole bunch of personal development experts in. And he introduced me to some great mentors that were at top of their games. We're talking about Inc. magazine, top 25 gurus, top 50 gurus, these kind of guys. So I'm saying, okay, these guys are meeting together and they know that the way forward is going to be reading, listening, and associating constantly. And the way we're going to do better than everyone else is by doing more of that and applying what we read from great books like The Seven Habits and study. So we're going to apply it to our business, and we're going to apply over and over, and we're going to be in the top 1% of the industry. So I thought that was a great idea. So every Saturday mornings now, I'm sitting down listening to these gurus, and I'm learning from them, and I'm using the material that they give, and I'm using the material that I get from the books that I read as well.
Right. So you're learning all the time, and you're also teaching. You're helping people become better leaders.
Absolutely. So in terms of that, I help companies to become better companies, help their staff better on something we call a corporate development program. I help people who were in some financial hardship to retain more of their income, and that's personal development too, believe it or not. And I help people who are in the podcast business because we have an exclusive podcast as well. So leadership, it's simple and it's vast.
There are two things I want to follow up on. The first thing is you have a story that you've told me in the past about helping someone with their personal finances. I think you know the one I'm talking about. Can you share that story with people?
Certainly. And this is something that we do on a daily basis, right? But you're doing it and people are getting results, but it never quite means being much because certainly this construction guy is saving $6,000 a month because of the financial principles that he's following. And this guy is able to maintain his relationship because he's following some leadership principles. But when it hits you was this, we call her spiritual mentor of ours, my wife and I. She's sitting through one of our programs, and she's an older lady, years ago at our church. And while she's sitting through that program, we didn't know that she was really getting much from it. There was a lot of people asking questions, and frankly, she didn't have any questions. She was just taking notes. But what happened somewhere in the beginning to middle of COVID, she sent us a message and said, Dave and my wife, Michelle, I am so happy that you guys went through that program with us that day, that Saturday morning, because what it has allowed me to do is to get rid of all my credit card debts, every single one, and it has allowed me to put money aside and put that money aside for emergency. And this year, my emergency was my daughter. She passed away. And she is in Jamaica. I live in Canada. I live here. She lives here. And this touched us as a family here too, because we're very close to her. But she felt relieved that she was able to stay here because of the restriction in terms of traveling, and she was still able to assist the burial in Jamaica 100%. She was able to finance that 100%. She felt happy that even though she wasn't there in a sad situation, you can get some happiness out of it as well. But even though she wasn't there, she was able to help all the folks that were there to make sure that her daughter had a great burial. And she really feel happy about that. And she sent us 2 testimonials about that.
It's an amazing story that someone in their probably the most horrible time of their lives reached out to you and thanked you for your contribution. You were able to help them down the road. There's a friend of mine who was a college level athlete. He was a pitcher. I used to bring him to teach our coaches in East York baseball how to coach kids in pitching. And he used to say about pitching, you can only control what happens until the ball leaves your hand. Once the ball leaves your hand, you can't do anything after that. So a lot of I think that's very metaphorical, especially for what you did. You don't know what's going to happen after that
That's
ball
right.
leaves your hand, after you've given someone that training, after you create something like this. But it's pretty clear that you were putting good out in the world, and good happened when somebody needed it at their most.
You know, Craig, that reminds me why sometimes people come to me because I run networking groups. People comes to me sometimes and they say, "Man, I didn't really feel it today. I didn't feel the energy to say what I do because I've said it over and over again." And I'm thinking, and I've said this quite often, that there could be somebody there this day that needed to hear what you were delivering. And because you were selfish, you kept it to yourself because you didn't have the energy to produce the ingredient that they need to help their life, they end up down the wrong path. So whether you're ready or not, it's irrelevant. You just need to be there when you are. And that's it.
You got to throw those pitches, right?
You got to throw them. Yeah.
And of course, that goes back to leadership, which, it just comes off you like light off the sun. What do people get wrong about leadership?
Well, they think it's some trick or some pony that you do some crazy thing and then you end up getting some crazy results. And it's much like hard work and internal work. So once you're doing the hard work and you're doing the internal work, then you can be adjusted. And much like the pitch, if you don't throw the pitch, you won't know whether or not the pitch is good. But once you throw it, then adjustment can be made. And so it is with leadership. If you go ahead, you start leading with a good heart, and then the adjustments can be made.
Talk about with a good heart. What does that mean for leadership?
Everything. A good heart means that you're going to help someone, you're heart centered, so you're going to help someone with the right thing, not something that's necessarily going to benefit you, but the person in front of you or the person you're communicating with is the person that you need to focus on. So that's what a good heart is. It's never about you, it's always about the other person.
Yeah, leadership is actually about you doing for other people rather than other people doing for you. And that's the difference. You see it all over the place. That's the difference between a leader and a boss. What are
Mhm.
some of the key characteristics of a good leader?
Okay, so a good leader, well, heart centered is one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a good leader, the most important thing other than that is for them to have character and integrity. Those two things are important. So do the right thing every time and never compromise on you or the person. Right thing every time. That's a good start. Then if you want some more adjustment along the way, just come to me. I'll give you 20 things that you can work through.
Are are those things people can learn?
That's a great question. If you are willing to learn, yes. But learning alone in itself doesn't mean much. Applying is where it means something. Because let's say this, we're in an environment now that we can Google almost anything that we want. We can get the information. Whether the information is true or not, that's a different story. So you kind of need a mentor or some kind of guide to make sure the information is correct. But once you know it's correct, the big step is really to apply that information. And after you apply that information, you want to have an environment where people around you are like you in some sort of way, not necessarily an image of you, but like you where they're working towards a common good. So those people kind of keep you in their influence, or like they say, the five people you hang around, you're a sum of those five people. So those people will kind of knock you back into the position that you need to be in, as well as you will knock them in the position they need to be when they're out as well. So those are really, really key ingredients that you need to look
Talked a lot about leadership, but another big part of what you do, and the reason I got to know you is networking. You run the business advisory networking group, which has the great name Bang. I remember Bang a lot more than I remember the words that come up to it. Why did you start a? Why did you start Bang?
at. That's a really cool question. And really, it is. I started networking when I started this leadership business in 2012. And one of the things that I noticed when I was going to networking groups was that they were looking at me. Everyone was looking at me like I am the person to buy the products and services that they're offering. So I kind of feel like I was there to sell them, not for them to sell me. But after a while, I realized that, man, I got to make some changes there. And the only way I can make changes here, I have to get into the inner circle of the people running the group so that I can basically bring in some of these leadership principles inside the group. So then I did that. So and that worked really well because from the original group that I started, I branched off into many other groups. And I started Bang uh, back with a bunch of people. We had a bunch of partners back then, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And what that was going to do is to add the stuff that we weren't getting in other groups. And so we used to meet in person. Of course, because of COVID, we're meeting online, which is kind of better, faster, and you can just walk from downstairs or from your living room, from your bedroom, come down to the computer, and there you go. You're networking. Simple as that. But then that group now evolved, and we needed to have an edge because there's all these networking groups that's evolving all over the place. So we're looking for things that can move people or way people can become referral partners, or how do we get people to outside of the networking group meet together and do some things that's going to benefit their business long term. So and that's really what Edge is, and it came from Jeff Olson's book, The Slight Edge, obviously, right? That's where I got that Edge principle from. So that's what we do with that group.
Yeah, it's Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock, which can be a little early sometimes, especially in the pandemic when I think we stay up a little bit later. But I really like the group, and I really like the people in the group. You've certainly attracted a lot of like-minded and like-valued people in the group. What do
And
people?
no excuses, Craig, because there is some people that in a different time zone, and it's 6 o'clock their time when it's 8 o'clock our time, and they're in the group.
There are people from Japan last time,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, people are showing up. What do people get wrong about networking?
They A lot of things they get wrong because, like I said in the beginning, they all look at the person in front of them and think that's the person they need to sell, and it's so wrong because hey, you can get me one guy, or you can get 250, 500 people from the guy in front of you. Which one do you want? You want to sell me, or you want to sell 500 people? It's You really want to build some kind of relationship with the person in front of you so that they can open up their network for you. And networking is not just business network. It depends on your business. You could be going to someone who wants to make artificial flowers and be in that group and network in that group because that's going to be some of the people that you're looking for your business that you're doing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in a formal group like a business networking group. It could be something that relates to what you're doing as a business.
Yeah, you always kind of know. So I was with a broadcaster, and in television, broadcasters have the money. They can give you the money that you can start your show. So people wanted to talk to me when I was there. But you knew right away the people that were looking at you like an ATM. right? You are the cash machine. And
Yes.
that's fine if we like your show, but that's not the stuff that's going to get people to help you and go the extra mile. It really is that human connection with people that make you go, this is the person I want to help. This is the person I want to work with. What's the best way for people to get out of the ATM mode and into the connection mode?
The best thing is really to prepare yourself before you go to these groups and come prepared to give. That's the bottom line. When you come to prepare to give, because most of these people have some tremendous knowledge and experience over the years, and then they start doing something else. So, I better go start networking. So they left what they were doing over the past 30, 40 years, and then they brought something brand new to network. So when they're speaking about the new products or services that they're offering, most people will see a hole in that because most people they have knowledge. They're most of these guys are pretty seasoned. So they can see holes in the new products or service that you're offering. So you're not gonna get anywhere. So it's until you start building the trust, like those relationships, then that's when they're going to open up to you and they may even say, hey, maybe you want to do that a little different because now we become friends or I understand you and I know what you're doing. And in fact, this did happen to me. A friend of mine, you met him, Cliff, uh, came to me at one point and said, hey, Dave, I think I can help you. I want to take you to this other networking group that have a little bit of different focus and so that you see what they do. And once that became light to me, then it opens up that networking world. And I'm thinking, man, you can do more than just sit around and give those 1 minute, 30 second to 1 minute pitches all day. You can actually do more with these individuals. And that's where the explosion begin in my mind. And really, right now, there's unlimited potential in networking if you know what you're doing.
Well, you've done that for me. You've told me, listen, Craig, you want to try this because in the last year has been a bit of reinvention for me as TV's been kind of shut down. And I've tried to pass that along to other people. I've given them tips on even how to set up their camera so they look better. And it's funny when you give people that, or when you give the people that, it feels good. When you get that, you feel some loyalty right away, right? And it's free, right? You're just sharing a little bit of your
Mhm.
expertise, but it creates such goodwill. And again, that's another pitch. You don't know where it's going when it left your hand, but you sure do feel good about throwing it.
Yeah, another story. We sat down with a lady after one of our networking groups, and she's been a nurse for 40 years. So she's doing a new business now because it helps her to go through her divorce. So then she just kind of put everything aside that she did over the last 40 years and then just focus on the new thing that she's doing. However, in that group, and during this time of COVID, there's a lot of people struggling with mental issues. And some of these people at the networking group, their kids are going through these things. And just open up our mind a little bit to say, hey, you can help a lot of people in this group. Just go ahead and meet those people because a lot of them are suffering, their kids are suffering from mental issues because they're locked down for almost a year, for well, over a year at this point. So now her mind is open and she has more energy because she actually now believes that she can get results from networking.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for talking to us today. I love your story. And what I love most about your story and says the most about you personally is you went from a situation where you were doing well personally, making money. You could have just rode that horse and been about yourself, but you switched to something where you made it about other people. And so you weren't just talking leadership, you were living leadership.
Absolutely. Living it for me makes more sense because I can't remember all the details of things that people do for a trick, to trick people to make decisions. So I might as well just plant my life in it. And when I do so, I can be more authentic. I can come across clear and I can do the right thing every time for the individual that I'm working with.
Well, Dave, thanks so much. People can find you through LinkedIn, through Dave Burgher Leadership, through the business advisory networking group, Bang. He's not hiding. He's not keeping himself a secret, and he shouldn't be. This is somebody you really want to spend some time with. And you've made it leadership what it should be about other people. And that, my friend, is what makes you a business hero.
Thank you, Craig. I had a great time with you
to
here
hear
today.
your story.
Thanks for having me.
Contact me at craig@colbyvision.net. I guarantee your story will sound epic with this cool music underneath it. Colby Vision can help you find and share your story. Writing, video, we do it all. We can also show you how to do your own simple videos and teach you how to do interviews for a podcast. Thanks to Dave White for the editing, Tim Vesely for the music, and Kevin Francisco for the graphics. And thanks for watching The Business Heroes. We'll see you next time for another exciting adventure.